Good evening all, and welcome to the Queensland Contingent webinar number 2, focusing obviously everything on Australian Jamboree AJ2025. So welcome tonight to everybody who's attended, and also welcome Nairi in the background, who is our manager of our communications, in particular looking after our social media, and we'll be filtering the questions that are coming through the chat, and we'll get to those towards the end of our webinar. So without any further ado, I'm assuming that everyone can hear me. Nairi can give me an indication of that. That'd be great.
Yes, perfect, John.
Thank you. Thank you.
Loud and clear.
Great, thank you. A little bit clearer tonight too, because I'm using a different computer. I think it was a bit foggy last time. So anyway, without further ado, tonight's intention is to just go over what a jamboree is, the what, the where, the when, the how, the why, and how much of an Australian jamboree. And also an opportunity for you to ask any questions at the end of the webinar. So you can put them in the chat, and with awesome help from Nairi, we'll filter those through, and we can answer those as we go to the best of our knowledge. If we don't know any of the answers to the questions, we will take it on board and get back to you individually. Also note that this webinar is being recorded and will be available in a couple of days via the Queensland Contingent website, so you can pass that link on to other people to attend and to review tonight's meeting webinar, and they can continue to ask questions. And there's been lots of questions since the last one. Very successful. We had 44 people attend, so that was fantastic. We're up to 25 at the moment, so that's lovely. And but welcome to everybody to tonight's webinar, and hope we can leave you excited about the Jamboree and answer your questions that you may have. So I'm going to start off by trying to share my screen and with the roadshow presentation, and we'll work our way through that tonight. So just bear with me for a moment and I'll share my screen. So things are looking good from my end. Hopefully from your end, you can see a screen that says Queensland Contingent. If someone just give me a thumbs up on that, that'd be fantastic. Oh, well done, team. Oh,
we can see it perfectly, John.
Great job. Thank you, Nairi. All righty, so hopefully this Jamboree, and we're getting excited. Applications are due to close soon. So, and we are less than 300 days away from what will be an exciting adventure for all at Maryborough. So hopefully everyone's prepared for some fun, adventure, achievement, and outdoor action that awaits you in Maryborough. And tonight, I guess, you know, we'll answer as many questions as we possibly can, and satisfy everybody so they can come along with confidence to the Jamboree, or at least have your questions answered. So you'll get an opportunity to do all that. So maybe we should start off by talking about what a Jamboree isn't, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. We've got a lot of new people to scouting who haven't experienced a Jamboree, and we haven't held one in Australia for 6 years. So AJ2019 was our last one. So by the time we get to 2025, it'll be 6 years. So it's not a patrol camp. It's a little bit bigger than that. It's certainly not a troop camp or a unit camp where you got the whole patrol. Unless you've got 6 patrols and you've got 36 youth members in camp with 4 leaders, then you're getting close to what a Jamboree or a Jamboree troop looks like, or a unit looks like. Certainly not a district camp. It's a lot bigger than that. And certainly it's much, much bigger than LEAP. And things like Cubbaree, nothing like a Cubbaree. Because as we know, if you've been to a Cubbaree, you know, we know that meals get cooked for you. You line up and you get what you get, I guess, and all your campsites all ready for you when you arrive. So unfortunately, Jamboree isn't like that. Jamboree is a national camp, and it's massive. We create a city for about 12 to 14,000 over a 10 to 15 day period. And that's designed for scouts aged 11 to 14. And because we didn't hold a Jamboree in 2019, national organisation allowed us to also have 15 and 16-year-olds as participants who'll be looked after a little bit differently. They won't necessarily be allocated to a patrol of scouts to look after. They'll be forming their own patrol. So operating as a scout patrol, but a bunch of venturers. So all the kids are together, all around about the same age, which is pretty cool. All the venturers, rovers, leaders, adult helpers can also come and help with running a jamboree. That's really important because for a jamboree of that size, we need lots of people to help us. So it's a whole of Queensland branch event. Most scouts will only get the one chance a lifetime to enjoy a jamboree. And because 2022 was cancelled, even some of those have missed out. So that's just, I guess, COVID to blame for that. And we all got caught up in that in one way or another. So to sort of compensate to a little bit, we're allowing the 15 and 16-year-olds to attend, and then older venturers can attend as workers, support workers at the jamboree. So jamboree is 10 to 12 days of action, expeditions, entertainment, daily life, camping with up to 12,000 scouts and other people from around, not only here in Australia, but also I've got about 600 coming from overseas, so which is fantastic, from New Zealand, from the United States, from Switzerland, from the UK, all over the place. So it's fantastic. And the jamboree is where patrols, I guess, are independent within the jamboree unit. So each jamboree unit's made up of 6 patrols, but they will be doing activities quite independent of the other patrols within the jamboree unit. So, and they're looked after, those 6 patrols are looked after by 4 leaders who will have various roles assigned to them within the jamboree unit. Bit of jamboree basics. So we've been doing this since 1934-35, where we started with the first Australian jamboree in Frankston, Victoria, and we hold them every 3 years. And with World Jamborees are also held every 4 years. And some of you may know that there's also jamborees in New Zealand, so not too far away, a bit like a trip to Western Australia, but in the opposite direction, where you can enjoy a New Zealand jamboree. And Nairi's experienced a New Zealand jamboree, and I guess you'll probably be able to give us a big thumbs up for that experience as well. But a jamboree is definitely a life-changing experience, one that anyone who goes, whether it be leaders or youth go, you'll never forget. I remember my very first jamboree as a scout was in 1970-71. Yes, that does make me old, but that's okay. Was in a little place called Leppington in New South Wales. I was a 14-year-old patrol leader at that jamboree, and had very strong memories of my very first jamboree. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I've been a member of this organisation for over 50 years, and have been a leader for over 45 years. So I've been to a few events and have a little bit of experience in the contingent space. So AJ's move around the country. This time we're hosting it. Last time it was just based in Victoria, but it was cancelled due to COVID. Before that was South Tailem Bend in South Australia. After AJ2025, jamborees are going to move to a 4-year cycle. So that was a decision made by our national body. And so the next jamboree after 2025 will not be till 2029. So jamboree is a bit like a small city, housing and feeding over 12,000 people. And for 10 to 12 days, the jamboree site, which you can see a picture of there, and that's only about 2/3 of it, will be bigger than Maryborough itself. We'll have all the same infrastructure, so we'll have police and fire brigade and access to ambulance services. Will all be there. There'll be a shopping mall where all the contingents are, and there'll be activities on site. Whole lot of things happening, and it's just an exciting time, and it can be overwhelming. That's for sure, because going to an opening ceremony and there's 12,000 people all into that main arena, which you can see up in the, I guess, up to the right, top right of that screen. You can see the showground, the horse track, and then you can see the stage from AJ 2013 where we ran the last jamboree. So it's just an amazing time for everybody. But yeah, everything's in there: stages, the shops, the entertainment, food, activities, camping, meeting places, swapping badges, making new friends, meeting some of our international guests, all that sort of stuff. And of course, there'll be food there, so they can go down and get a mango tango or a smoothie, or they can go and get a drink or an ice cream just to chill down if it's a little bit hot in Maryborough in summer. But it's a great experience, and it's a great setup. And it is. It's like taking a small town and just filling it with scouts.
I didn't understand that.
Oh, sorry, that's my phone. talking to me. So yeah, small town. So more scouts on site than the host city, Maryborough. So it's pretty good. And that's, like I said, it is a picture of AJ2013. So we run jamborees to encourage the physical, intellectual, social, emotional, and spiritual development of young people. And a jamboree is really a crash course in the Scout program crammed into a very intense 11 days with friends, old and new, some from your home group and some whole new friends that you haven't met yet. And that's one of the exciting things. I think most of my great friends in Scout are from Scouting. So still keep connecting with them on a regular basis. So Scouting has a lot to answer for in that space. It's linked to increasing in resilience in young people. They learn to, at a jamboree, learn to operate as a patrol. They learn to cook meals for 40 others, set their campsite up that they're going to live in for up to 15 days, or depending on what contingent they're with, because we move in a little bit early and we leave a bit later, so we're going to be a bit longer. But yeah, it has lots of benefits such as positive mental health, learning life skills, I guess, and skills that they'll take home with them after the jamboree. So even long after they finish the jamboree, they'll be still utilising the skills that they got at AJ. They'll care for themselves, they'll help others, they'll do their share of cooking. So hopefully they're okay at cooking for 40 other people. And doing things like their washing on their day off and doing all that sort of stuff. But then they can have new experience like rock concerts out in a campsite, or go to Maryborough or down to Australia Zoo and lots of other places, down to Harvey Bay to do water activities, and just having heaps of fun and making new friends. It might be just 2 weeks away from home, but I guess when the scouts come home, they'll probably be feeling 2 years older and a changed young person, that's for sure. So a jamboree is generally eligible for members of the Scout section aged 11 to 14, but for 2025, we're allowing, as I said before, 15 and 16-year-olds to come along as participants. There are badge work requirements they need to do as well. So things like getting their milestone 1 within the Scout section, also 10 nights camping within the Scout section with other Scouts from the Scout unit. Unfortunately, things like coverees, school camps, family camps don't count towards the eligibility criteria. But that's how it is, because we want them to have the best experience, so they need to be prepared. Be prepared is our motto, so being prepared before you get to the jamboree is probably a key part of all of this. Our leaders are also have a fantastic jamborees. I've had some amazing experience and met some amazing people in my time in Scouting and at jamborees, from jamborees in Western Australia to South Australia to all over Australia, where we've been holding them. And I've also been overseas to Fiji, to New Zealand, to Canasteg and Switzerland as well, attending jamborees and international events. And it's just a great experience as a leader to support young people trying to have the best time as they can. And our responsibility as Contingent is to ensure that all of our young people and our older people as well are well supported during the jamboree. And we have a thing like, we have hospitals on site, also counselling services on site, looking after mental health of people are all things that we do as part of the jamboree. Even a dentist is going to be on site. So hopefully we don't get toothaches and have to get that dealt with. But we do need support leaders in the troop lines, or the unit lines, I should say, service leaders for activities. There's jobs for everybody at the jamboree. As I said earlier, venturers aged 15 and 16 can come along as participants and have the full jamboree experience. Or if there's enough of them they wanted, they might be able to form their own jamboree unit, or be a independent patrol with 5 other patrols in a jamboree unit. It just depends on how many we get. We currently have just over 100 venturer scouts who want to attend as participants. So that's really exciting, and really is going to be amazing. So we're looking forward to putting this on. So we just want to make sure that people don't miss out, but unfortunately there could be some. Older venture rovers, obviously we want them to come along and help run things like the Maryborough activities or the Challenge Valley that's going to be on site. It's an amazing experience. We want as many people as we can to come along and have a great time and be part of the biggest scouting show on earth. So opening ceremony for the jamboree is scheduled for the 6th of January and the 15th of January is the closing ceremony. There's lots of stuff probably every night happening on the main arena. And then Queensland contingent, we actually move in a day early on the 5th of January so that we're there on site ready to welcome all the other contingents so that they get well looked after. We might be able to give them a cup of tea or a drink, cold drink, because it might be hot. And or if they need lunch, we can help them get food while they're still sitting their campsite up. And then the same at the other end. We leave on the 16th, so we're actually there for 12 days. On the 16th, to make sure that we look after the contingents that got to leave. It could be the kids from Perth. They may have to get a bus at 2 a.m. in the morning, so they get down to Brisbane Airport so they can catch their flight back home to Perth or Western Australia. And it'll be the same as when they're probably arriving. They're coming in on the red eye, so they're probably going to end up in Brisbane on the 5th of January, something on the 6th of January, something like 5 o'clock in the morning, and then they've got another 3.5 hour bus ride ahead of them, so they could be a bit tired. So we're there to help all the contingents have a great time and feeling really well supported. And because we're Queenslanders, this is what we do. We look after everybody. We're good at that. And the Jamboree is also Queensland. We do Jamborees very, very well. I've been to a number of Queensland Jamborees and you cannot fault any of them. So it's a fantastic experience. Families will also be able to come up and visit. The middle weekend, the 11th, 12th and 13th of January, with Future Scout Day will be on the 12th of January. So that's when the Cub Scouts and Joey Scouts, and anyone else for that matter who wants to come up and visit, they can certainly do that as well. But they'll need to register, so you won't be able to just come up to the front gate and say, yep, we're here for Future Scout Day. Unless you've registered, they will not let you in. Our Jamboree site, it's at the Maryborough Showgrounds Equestrian Park. There's a bit of a map there, I guess, and that gives you a bit of an indication of the site, the size of the Jamboree site. The image that you saw earlier is really that all that from the left on that left-hand side of that map. So there's a whole lot of campsites for a couple of thousand scouts and activity zones out there as well on that right-hand side of that image. So lots of campsites. And it's going to be a great time. And how much does this cost? Well, for scouts and eligible venturers to attend as participants, the cost is $2,400. This includes everything. So transport to and from the Jamboree, all your equipment that you're using at the Jamboree, all your activities, your accommodation, all the food that gets supplied to you on a daily basis, special diets looked after as well, really well. So everything you would expect, when you need to go and have a shower, the showers will be there, and you will have unisex showers and toilets available. So everything is there. All the infrastructure you would expect of a big city like Maryborough will be there at the Jamboree site as well. And we put all that in place. We take over the site from the 1st of December, and all that is in place by the time we start the Jamboree on the 6th of January. So the only other money people might need, young people might need, could be their own spending money for a drink or an ice cream, or buying a souvenir to take home to someone at home that they might love and care for. It's probably be as cashless as we can get. We're currently negotiating, the Jamboree committee is currently negotiating to have a couple of automatic telling machines on site, which we did last time. But cashless, the less cash you've got carrying around, having a card of some description is probably that you can get loaded up before you go, is probably the best way to go. For all other leaders, adventurers and rovers, adult supporters who want to attend and support the Jamboree, the cost is $1,680. And that is heavily discounted from the $2,400. But again, for them, that includes everything that they need. But we certainly appreciate that they're giving up valuable time, their holidays, and being away from family for some weeks. So the fee has been discounted for them. When you apply going through the www.aj2025.com.au website or through the Queensland Contingent website, you'll need to put a $50 deposit. And and then the first installment of $800 is not due until it's due on the 31st of March this year. So that's coming up pretty quick with applications closing. And so payment details are available on our website. You can set up payment plans, weekly or monthly installments, or if you've got fundraising happening as well, you can just send the deposit the funds, we can provide account details, and then just send us all the details who that money is going to be allocated to. So it is, so yeah, great opportunity to raise funds, and also a great opportunity to experience a jamboree of a lifetime. Fundraising, all that sort of stuff will still need to happen. Generally what happens in the home group, I guess, is that people will form, those parents of young people that are attending the jamboree will form a fundraising committee, and they'll go do sausage sizzles, or take some proportion perhaps of the can recycling program. Could be fertilizer drives, all sorts of things that you could be doing to raise funds to help young people. There are other opportunities for funding as well for disadvantaged members through the Lord Baden Power Society and also through Scouts Queensland. So stay tuned in the second half of this year for information on that via our Chief Commissioner's newsletter or the Scouting Family News as well. So we'll get that out to everybody so they know when they're available. So there's a whole lot of opportunities to have fun, also raising funds and getting some funds together to help support young people to attend the jamboree. So that's this is one of my favourite slides. This, if you have a look closely, you see a couple of young ladies there from the south. I think they're from the Tasmanian contingent. An activity called Smash It. You can see in the background to their on your right, to their left of the screen is what's left over a car, and there's a few on there on the left of the screen. You can see some young scouts with mallets. They're all full of PPE, and they're literally smashing cars to the ground. So they're having a great time at that particular activity. We destroyed 16 cars at the last jamboree, so it's a great opportunity, great activity, lots of fun. So if you've got any questions, you can start putting them into the chat, and we'll try to answer those as we can go through. Over to you, Nairi.
We've got a question which is around the FPOS cards and the ability to tap and go. We all know how much we love the ease of access to our FPOS cards. One of the questions that we have from a webinar participant is there a process that we might be introducing where we're verifying that the card belongs to the person who's presenting the card, for example? Is that anything that's been talked about at the national level from the Jamboree Executive Committee, perhaps?
Not that I'm aware of at this stage, Nairi. I think that they're still in negotiation stages with the providers, particularly with the telling machine, but they're also there will be, I guess, kids have got their ID on them. They need to have that on them all the time, so it would be a fairly simple matter of here's the ID, here's the card, the names match, and away you go. I suspect that would be one way around it. So I can bring that up. We have a Jamboree committee meeting tomorrow night, so I can certainly bring that up or talk to whoever's looking after finance for the Jamboree about that. But yeah, that would be, look, the purchases are likely to be, there'll be some traders there, could be from Boost Juice, for example, or it could be the contingents themselves may be selling some merchandise. So it could be badges, it could be anything on a particular day. The Scout shop may very well be there as well with souvenirs for the young people to buy to take home, that sort of stuff. So, but we can certainly request that be put in place. It's no big, I don't think it's a big deal, and we can make that happen fairly simply.
Wonderful. The next question that we've got is around how we pay. So I'm guessing that is related to how we pay deposits and then payment plans to pay off the Jamboree. Yeah, so I'll hand that one over to you as well, John.
No worries. So as part of the application process, on the status page is where you would pay your deposit, and then you can make the additional payments. There is a payment schedule there, and there's also on that same status page on the application process is the opportunity to select whether you want to go to weekly payments or monthly payments or whatever structure you want in place. You can make additional payments as well. And as I said before, if say maybe the group is raising funds and they want to put a bulk payment on behalf of a number of members of, say, $1,000, for example, they would just give us a spreadsheet telling us who, give us the application number as well as the the amount and who it's going to, and we would just allocate that in the background.
Awesome, wonderful. So the next question we have is more a clarification. So just to clarify, Youth from Queensland will be there from the 5th to the 16th, which will be 12 days instead of the official 10 days.
Absolutely. Yep, correct. Yeah. So always the host state of a jamboree usually moves in the day before and then usually leaves the day after. It's just really to support those incoming contingents and also the out at the start and then the outgoing contingents. Because as I said, some contingents may be getting on a bus at 2 a.m. So their campsite will they will be packing up their campsite during the day, go to the closing ceremony. So they'll probably want a place to hang out and chill. Sometimes the contingents area is not big enough for that. We've had people sleep in our contingent areas while they're waiting for a bus to get home and those sorts of things. And then they would, then they would just catch their bus. So we'd give them a place like one of the other campsites that we're still occupying, because we won't pull our campsite down until the 16th. So we're making sure most people are pretty much off-site by the time we get to pull our campsite down and head for home.
Perfect. Thank you. So the next one is a suggestion, and it'll be likely something you'll take to the Jamboree Executive Committee, John, but it's around that FPOS question again. So a suggestion is, have we thought about having an ID card that can have funds loaded onto it, which would potentially take away that risk of losing an FPOS card, for example?
Look, there's an ID card already produced. We have an ID system already in place, which will have an RFID tag on it if they're still using that technology. So it will be, look, it's just going to be a matter. They can suggest that through to the executive committee, but I would suggest that things are already in play in regards to the ID cards that we're providing. So it would just be adding another card to the system. So I think that, because the photos are critical as part of the application process, we've rejected a lot because of poor background, family shots, don't quite. So we need, passport style photos. So we'll be able to quite easily match somebody's identification to their card that they might be using. But again, that'll be up to the JEC. And as I've mentioned before, I'm more than happy to bring that up with the JEC, Jamboree Executive Council Committee, tomorrow.
Wonderful, thank you. So we have a question around shops. Are there grocery type shops or general shopping at the Jamboree?
There's no grocery shopping at the Jamboree. Everything that the units will need to put a meal together for 40 people is provided out of the Jamboree store. That is delivered to their site daily. Cold stuff will arrive at their Jamboree site in an esky, and the troop they'll keep swapping eskies over. So everything they need. So there won't be a grocery store, but there will be a store where they might be able to, I guess, get a few bits and pieces like deodorant or Band-Aids or toothpaste or toothbrushes, a few of those bits and pieces, but it won't be a Coles or a Woolworths, not even an IGA for that matter. But there will be it's more about souvenirs, drinks, those sorts of things. But there will be some small things for young people to buy at the Jamboree.
Wonderful. So the next question is around the closing date of registrations, which we all know is coming up quickly. 31st of March is the due date for registrations. So the question is it likely to be extended if someone changes their mind, for example? Is there a point that any payments will be refunded?
Yep. So if you put an application in on the transport page is the Queensland Contingent Information Kit. So if you download that, you'll see that the policy in regards to withdrawals and refunds of money is actually on that document.
Awesome. So the next question is around transport, specifically from Stanthorpe in southeast Queensland to camp. How are those participants likely to get to Maryborough?
Yeah, probably start walking now, or you could wait for the bus that we'll provide. So a bus, so all the contingent members will be travelling to and from the Jamboree site, unless there's exceptional circumstances. But we have some members of Stanthorpe. We also have some members from Goondiwindi, Warwick, and going up to town, Toowoomba as well. So it's likely that a coach will start at Goondiwindi, not Goondiwindi, but Stanthorpe, and click the Stanthorpe guys, head off to Warwick, grab the Warwick guys, go up the mountain and grab some Toowoomba people, load the bus up, and they'll head straight to the campsite. But it's already in the planning stage in terms of transport. So we're well advanced because we've got some people who are coming from Mount Isa and also from Cairns and Townsville, and also one other location, which leaves my mind for the moment, so I apologise for that. And but they'll be flying, but everybody else will be by bus.
Excellent. So the next question, it's a good one, especially for parents and carers and families that aren't familiar with scouting and they've just got youth members involved. But can you please help us all understand why Cabaree nights under canvas are not counted for AJ minimum eligibility requirements?
Yep, sure. So the setup for Cabaree is quite different to a Jamboree. At Cabaree, they don't cook their own food. It's provided for them, and the Cubs hand a plate out and somebody puts some food on it. At the Jamboree, the quality of food and the menu is very different, and the Scouts are provided with their stores on a daily basis, and they are required to cook it. So the cooking process is being minimised. So what we are doing is some of the meals will be pre-prepared, in other words, in bulk. So and some of it just needs to be heated through just a bit like a sous vide machine, so a setup. So putting it in hot water, heating it that way. And the other side of Cabaree is that when the Scouts arrive at the Jamboree, all their gear that is supplied for them, so they don't need to bring anything home from their home troop outside of their own personal equipment, or what the leaders may provide before the Jamboree starts is all supplied. So their tents, their cooking gear, their campsite, their gateway, everything you would expect in a troop camp, we actually supply all of that. And at Cabaree, we supply all that as well. But when the Cub Scouts arrive, it's already there. So the camping is very different, and that's why we don't, and it's quite specific in terms of the eligibility requirement, which has been approved by National, and that was established by our Jamboree Executive Committee. So Queensland and the other contingents are just following what we've been told to do. And but at the end of the day, the camping standards and the camping is quite different than from a Cabaree to a Jamboree. So very, very different. It is a long day for every day. So we have curfews at night time to ensure that our Scouts can last the 12 days of a Jamboree.
All right. So the next one is around payments. Will late payments be accepted for the first payment? Because there is the person who's asked is fundraising and they won't quite have the $800 by the 31st of March.
If you keep us informed of that if you go through our email, you can either contact finance@aj.scoutsqld.com.au, or if you go to the Queensland Contingent website and just send us a message via contact at aj.scoutsqld.com.au, just with the setup, or do an advance payment, get some funds that you have raised into the system, and then we can, with an explanation of what's going on, and then we can support that.
Excellent, thank you. And I've popped that email address in the chat as well, if anyone else needs that email address and didn't quite get it when John mentioned it.
Yeah.
Our next question.
Just on that, just remember that. So the Queensland Contingent is collecting the Jamboree fee and also the contingent fee at the same time. So the Queensland Contingent will need to, I guess, some money will need to go to the Jamboree Executive Committee, or JEC, so they can actually pay for things or the infrastructure that's being put on site. So it's all those buildings, all the other things that a Jamboree site will have, all the toilets, showers, all those sorts of things have to be brought on site. So we also have to pay to the Jamboree Executive Committee. So we've just got to manage that as we can. But the more you keep us informed, the better that'll be for everybody.
Yep, good point, John. We are collecting that money on behalf of the Jamboree Executive Committee, and we do need to pay them in instalments as a Queensland contingent. So the next question is, do leaders have to register by the same date as youth, which is the 31st of March?
Short answer is yes, but it depends on the role that they're going to take, because we are looking for at the moment, I guess, the full-time leaders, because again, we're operating to a budget. And these dates, we opened expressions of interest last year and applications last year. So I guess that the time is ticking and has been ticking for a while. If you are looking for a part-time role at the Jamboree or a casual role at the Jamboree, then we probably don't need, you can certainly put in an application in, but we may be chasing you in terms of money. But the applications for casual and part-time staff will occur later on in the year. So any payments are still being worked out, I think, by the Jamboree Executive Committee. That whole process, what does that look like? How does that work? Because the other end of that scale is on the 31st of, just understand, on the 31st of March, when applications close, that's when we need to start, our suppliers are actually starting to ask questions. Okay, so how many contingent shirts, for example, are we going to make? How many Jamboree shirts? How many hats? How many hydration backpacks? Because if you're a member of the Queensland Contingent, you'll get some badges, and you can see the badge that we're using as our logo. You'll get a shirt, so short or long sleeve. We're working with our supplier offering that long sleeve option as well if people want that. A hydration backpack, so hopefully that'll get good use not only at the Jamboree but beyond. And then there's the Queensland tape and a few other bits and pieces like a luggage tag that we're supplying as well. The Jamboree itself will also be supplying a hat, a scarf, a woggle, and a shirt, so a Jamboree shirt. So there's a few bits and pieces that we've got suppliers that have to get things made offshore, and so we're sort of on a time frame here as well.
Awesome. So the next question is, will there be a shuttle bus? Now, there's no other context to that question, so I'm guessing it's to move around activities, or maybe move around the site, or?
So generally, there won't be a bus. There's very little, because of 14,000 or up to 14,000 people in a fairly confined space. There's little opportunity for vehicles to move around the site. Each of the contingent will have 2 or 3 buggies, but they will be more for our camping team that goes and visits each of the Jamboree units. But we also will transport kids to medical, to the Jamboree hospital or medical centre if there's issues like that. There isn't a Jamboree, there's not a shuttle bus that's moving around the actual campsite itself. There will be buses, a bus depot on site for when scouts are having to go off site. So they will be put onto, they'll have an allocated bus that they need to get to, and they will be tagged off the site, just like you tap and go for the trains or buses or whatever. You'll be tagged on, and then at the other end you'll be tagged off, and then the reverse process coming home. So it could be going to Maryborough, could be to Harvey Bay, could be down to Biwa, to Aussie Zoo. It could be a number of other places that they will be going off site, but it's certainly by bus that they would be moving off site. But around the site itself, probably not.
All right, and it is a big site. I was at Cabaret last year, but you get your steps up. It's a good chance to get some exercise in. The next question, which you have covered, John, but we'll just clarify it just to make sure we're answering everybody's question, but it's, what is the transport? So you've mentioned already about buses and planes for those who live far away.
Yeah, so if you're living in Cairns and Townsville, Mount Isa, and I still can't remember the other place, there's another place, but they will be flown to Brisbane, and they will be bussed from Brisbane Airport up to the Jamboree site. The other members of the contingent, for example, if you are at Stanthorpe, you'll pick a bus up at Stanthorpe that will go to Warwick, to Toowoomba, and head straight to the site. But then also you've got lot of Brisbane people. So on the south side, they'll probably come to Chandler, to the sports centre there, and where the buses will gather, and we will load people on. The other side of that is on the north side is will be probably at the Brisbane Entertainment Centre, and then we'll have Sunshine Coast, a few other places as well. But if you live in Maryborough, you probably will just be getting there will be a designated place where everybody will need to get to at a particular time. So Maryborough, Hervey Bay, probably Bundaberg as well, will all just make their way to a central location. Could be one of the local schools. They'll get there, and then we bus them on site. So what we do when we get to Maryborough, so we just don't drive on site, because we've got kids who are on buses, I guess, coming from all sorts of places. We need to organise them into their Jamboree units off-site, put them onto a bus that's dedicated to go to their particular Jamboree site. We deliver the scouts pretty much as close as we can to their Jamboree site, so they don't have to carry stuff very far.
Wonderful. So the next question is, will the groups need to provide any equipment, for example, gazebos, a barbecue, or will absolutely everything be supplied?
Absolutely everything will be supplied. The only addition outside of that is, because it's in our state, some of our scout leaders might put a trailer together with some stuff in it, extra additional things. They will be given a prescribed date that they can deliver that trailer to their Jamboree site. It'll be before Christmas 2024, and they will need to secure it so to make sure that everything is watertight and nothing gets in. So I see a question about luggage limits and those sorts of things. We will provide a prescribed list of equipment that individuals can take. So it will be their sleeping gear, their toiletry gear, their towels, their clothing, all that sort of stuff. We will give them a prescribed list of what they need to pack and suggested sizes, because we don't have, it's not an unlimited luggage area on a bus. There are limits to a bus that has 55 kids or leaders, adults and youth on it, and also the amount of gear that they've got as well.
Perfect. The next question is a bit of a fundraising question. Do you mind sharing what a fertiliser drive is?
Yep, I've got a few groups in my region down in Brisbane, so I'm a Brisbane-based leader. A few groups that they have hooked up with a supply company that does fertiliser and soil, and the local nursery. What they do is the group takes all these orders. The group gets it. Each of the packets of fertiliser, what it might be, at a prescribed price. So it might be, I don't know, whatever price they pay, but then they can, they're getting it like at a wholesale price, and they're able to sell it to the public in retail. They do lots of letterbox drops. I have 3 groups that provide me on a regular basis letterbox drops advertising their fertiliser drive, and all I do is go online. I can order it, I can pay for it in advance, and then they'll either deliver it or I can pick it up on a particular day. They make lots of money, I can assure you, like $3,000 or $4,000 up to $5,000 in one go. That
is an awesome fundraising idea.
Yep, yeah. Manly Lota or Mount Bruce are 2 groups that come to mind immediately in terms of fertiliser drives down my way.
Wonderful. So the next question is, I've heard that the Queensland contingent sleeps open air on the last night. Will the Queensland tents stay up until the day the Queenslanders depart?
Generally, we might have the kids underneath, the youth members underneath the dining fly that last night, because depending on their departure time on the 16th will determine how much of their site comes down. So it really is on a case-by-case, unit-by-unit basis, but we generally don't, not in our own home Jamboree, don't sleep in the open air. I remember doing that at AJ2010 down in Sydney, and it sprinkled a bit of rain that night, and we just kids were that tired, they just went to sleep anyway on their bags, because we didn't get picked up until I think it was 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. So to get down to Sydney to fly back to Brisbane. So it just depends on the situation. We'll judge it. We've got a camping team that is going to will look after each of the individual sites, the leaders. And the leaders we're picking are experienced leaders who've done this before.
Excellent. So the next one is a good one to unpack a little bit further. This is the first time some people have heard about part-time or casual staff or leaders at a jamboree. Could John please talk about this a little more?
People just, the bottom line is that people can't get the time off to commit to 2 or 3 weeks away from home. They may not be able to get the holiday, particularly it could be students. Some teachers, because the lateness of the jamboree, because if you think about it, term 1 of 2025 is not far away from the back end, from the 16th of January. So some teachers may be looking at already going back, getting prepped for the next year. So the part-time, people will be able to come on site. They'll go through all the same processes in terms of blue card, all those sorts of checks and balances and referee checks, all those sorts of things. That will still happen, and they'll be able to nominate which job. It could be just going on activities, helping on site, could be in the stores, it could be just helping around the campsite with sites and services. It could be someone who's running their own business. For example, they might be a plumber or a truck driver, and they might want to help out for a few days to give us a hand at the jamboree, dealing with electrical or plumbing, or it could be some other issue that we're dealing with. But yeah, so stay tuned. That's up to the Jamboree Executive Committee, who will announce that and how that will all work. We're going through the details in the back end of the moment. I hope that answered the question.
I think it does, John, and I think it's a good opportunity to just share with everyone who might not be aware. There's actually, while the Jamboree is being held in Queensland, there are 2 different groups. So we have the Jamboree Executive Committee, which is the national team pulling the entire event together. And then we have John, who's our Queensland Contingent Director, who's making sure that every youth member and every leader and volunteer from the Queensland state gets to the Jamboree safely, well prepared, very organised. Yeah, so it's confusing for us in Queensland because we have 2 teams, but they do 2 very different roles. So really good to understand that link between the JEC, is what we're calling it. That's the acronym, and our Queensland contingent. So next question is, I know we've touched on this a few times, John, but what sort of activities will the youth be doing? A person here who's in our webinar has been told there's lots, but would love to know more specifically and what sort of places they'll be going to visit.
So I'm still, the program team are finalising the full program. But if I can go off AJ2013 as some sort of guide, because I ran on-site activities at the last Jamboree in Queensland, and they are using some of the similar activities that we ran last time, but certainly on-site there'll be a whole lot of stuff, I guess, badge swapping. There'll be the heritage team will be there, but there'll be also abseiling and rock climbing, and we had a great big water slide. We had a circus in town last time as well. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily going to be the same this time, but similar activities like laser tag or tag in a box, those sorts of things. We bought 1,000 Nerf guns last time and 10,000 bullets. So just to give you the enormity of it, ringing up a circus and say I want to hire you is something pretty special. So there's all sorts of stuff. And then going off-site, what I'm aware of is there will be a water activity centre or a base down at Harvey Bay. Also, there's stuff going on in and around Maryborough, because the town of Maryborough are very happy to have us as part of their city again, and will be a great opportunity. But there'll be activities. We did Where's Wally last time, and all the kids got to go get and have a KFC for those that wanted the KFC, because they provided all the lunches to the kids who attended Jamboree last time as well. I don't know where that's happening again this time, but yeah, and also there's Australia Zoo. So the Australia Zoo will be a day trip back and forth. Last time we did this was Australia Zoo and beach activities. The kids weren't getting back until 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, and they were missing out on some of the nighttime entertainment. So they're restricting the Australia Zoo visit this time to just the one day. So they'll be back in time for dinner that night, so they can get the full program on whatever's going on that night time. And there'll be mini arenas. The shopping mall will still be open and going at night time as well. All those sorts of things. Although the food vendors will be closed, they will be closed during dinner time, so that scouts don't get tempted that they need to go and get a mango tango from in the middle of when it's supposed to be mealtime within the Jamboree unit, that sort of stuff. But if they get a bit hungry later on in the night, yep, there'll be that. We had the local Rotary Club here last time, providing burgers and those sorts of things and chips, and they were certainly well supported. That was a great way for the Jamboree to put back into the community. So as soon as we can get hold of information about activities, and also the newsletter that the JEC is also, they've already sent out one newsletter. I'm hoping the next newsletter won't be too far away, and hopefully it'll have lots of information about the activities. So I couldn't fully answer it, but I'm to the best of my ability with what I know at the moment.
That's it, and it's an evolving program, hey, especially with how far away it still is. So the next question is, if you have 3 youth members from your troop, will they all be in the same patrol? And if you are a leader who's also going to Jamboree, do you get allocated to their troop?
There's a whole lot of answers to that particular question. So we'll start with the youth members. So if you've got a heap of youth members, or even 2 or 3 youth members from the one group attending, they will be allocated into the same unit. They'll be together. When in terms of them being in the same patrol, that's usually up to the Jamboree Scout Leader. So we run what's called a Jamboree Scout Leader weekend on the first weekend in September. And that's when we tell all the Jamboree Scout Leaders who is going to be in their Jamboree troop or unit. And then they're advised that they need to contact every youth member and leader that's been allocated to them. They've got a week to do that. And usually some of them will do it within 24 hours. But generally we give them a week to do that. Then what happens is that there'll be a call for patrol leaders. So who wants to nominate themselves to be patrol leaders at the Jamboree and in charge, looking after a patrol of scouts, or it could be a patrol made up of just venturers. So the venturers will also be able to put their hand up to be a patrol leader of venturers. They won't be patrol leaders of scouts. They'll just be patrol leader of venturers. And then the conversation will occur between the Jamboree Scout Leader and the home troop leader or Jamboree leader. And there'll be questions like, okay, so who should I be putting with who? So it could be, look, put this young person with that person, but don't put this person with that person. And so we get all of that. And so we work through that as well. But it's also, the Jamboree is about meeting new friends, making new friends, and spreading them amongst the Jamboree unit. But we won't separate them out of the unit. They'll always be together, but it may depend on the makeup of how many kids from other groups that make up that Jamboree will determine how the patrols line up.
Perfect. Okay, so the next question is around the withdrawal policy for AJ2025. This one's chasing a link, so I'll find a link online and post it there for the person who's asked that question. Yeah,
the details of that is actually in OLMS in the application system, and when they put their application and get to the transport page, it's actually, there is a Queensland information kit that they can download. It's a PDF document and they can grab it there.
Perfect. All right. Other cars. So this is a good one about the car smash that's been done in the past. And this was an activity that was also at New Zealand in January this year. It was very, very popular. A little bit odd as a leader to watch, but the youth members loved it. Are the cars that are getting smashed from scrapyards?
Yes.
Easy.
So they are. We get. Yeah, they're not. Yeah, we don't get them from the local Ford dealer or Holden dealer. Oh, sorry, it's not Holden anymore. Is it whatever it is? No, last time when I ran AJ 2013, I negotiated with the local smash guy, I guess, and they pulled out all the glass, all the nasty things. So there were no fluids in the car. The engine was removed. So all those sorts of dangerous and hazardous things were all removed. We supplied all the PPE. The goggles you can see there, we actually supplied hard hats as well, and a range of different size mallets to suit young people. So, and we ordered 16 vehicles, and they delivered 2 new vehicles on site and removed 2 smashed vehicles that were very flat on a daily basis during the Jamboree. And even that was a bit of a show, a spectacle, bringing in the new cars, because the kids are going, we're doing this tomorrow, and they're rubbing their hands together going, this is going to be great. So, but we also did things like, they did graffiti. So we bought 7,000 cans of paint from Super Cheap Auto and spray paint. So we got lots of great art. There was other activities, wheelbarrow races, and all sorts of other things going on at that particular activity. I'm not sure whether that particular activity is making a reappearance for 2025, but I can certainly find out, or stay tuned and I'll tell you some of those things. We can't give it all away. Got to make it a surprise as well.
Excellent. So the next question is, will some youth members meet others from their troop before the actual Jamboree?
Yeah, so that's up to the Jamboree Scout Leader, because what we try to do is we will have country young people. So it could be some young people from Cairns, or we've got one scout who's coming, just a scout, just on their own, from Mount Isa. What the Jamboree Scout Leader tries to do in those last couple of months before the Jamboree is have some sort of camp, or organise it that the kids from Cairns, for example, and the kids from Gold Coast will run a simultaneous camp, and they'll communicate and chat and meet and do all sorts of things using today's modern technology to chat to each other. If they're close by, if they're relatively close by, maybe Sunshine Coast and Brisbane based, they may also get together. We do encourage that, but sometimes it's just physically not possible. But they will certainly be making a link and connection to each other, which is what I've done in the past, run some simultaneous camps at the same time, and we've connected through using technology.
Excellent. So if a person has put travelling with the contingent on their registration form, but now needs to change it and can't, what do they do there? They
would need to send us an email through through the link that you've provided, or contact at AJ.Queensland, scoutsqld.com.au. Explain what your situation is. We need to understand why, because our preference is obviously that people travel to and from the Jamboree site. But we also understand that because it's a home Jamboree, some families might want to be travelling or holidaying in Maryborough, or maybe not Maryborough, but say Harvey Bay, for example, while the Jamboree's on, and want to collect their child or drop their child off. You won't be able to drop your child off at the front gate. You'll be required to come to a pre-designated place at a pre-designated time. When we're offloading kids and putting kids back on buses, that's when we'll get together with you, if that's your situation. But we just need to understand the situation before we approve it.
Perfect. So the next one, I'm surprised it hasn't come up until now, John, because it was a hot topic at the first webinar, but it's around smartwatches and phones. So will there be a group page to share photos with parents, for example, and can smartwatches and phones be brought to the Jamboree?
So Queensland Contingent preference is no. So that's really the short answer. At the end of the day, we will not be providing facilities for charging or any security in terms of outside of inside the group. We'll talk about that in a minute, but basically we will not be responsible for that. Our issue is that it's more about safety and security of the Jamboree as a whole, and also safety and security of individuals at the Jamboree. So Queensland Contingent made the decision that our preference is no to phones. For the reason is, as I said, that it's about security and privacy and protection and all those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, we cannot stop. But like I said, if you lose it, you've lost it. There's nothing we will do about it. We won't follow up. Yep, we're very sympathetic to all of that, but we've said the preference is no phones. If young people do bring a phone, then it will be we'll be briefing the Jamboree Scout leaders that what other states are doing is those phones are secured pretty much for 23 hours a day in a lockbox, and they come out for 1 hour. Cannot be removed from the unit site, so they can only make phone calls within unit site, and there'll be a unit code developed, and that'll happen anyway within Queensland Troops, but a unit code specifically around the use of phone that everybody on that Jamboree site unit site will agree to and adhere to as well. So and on the other side, to find out what's going on at the Jamboree, so the intention is, the Jamboree, the Queensland Contingent will be sending out daily newsletters to all families, and also we'll have Facebook presence. We'll do an interview. We've got some young venturers who are coming onto our team, are going to be interviewing some of our participants, and we'll get them up and they can say messages to home, or hi mum and dad, having a great time. But I guess the other side is that if you don't hear from your child, it's probably because they're having too good a time. So that's the other way of looking at it. But we'd rather not have phones, mainly because we want to maintain privacy, protection and security of the Jamboree as a whole, but also individuals.
Perfect. And I'll just add as well that there will be some youth members and leaders and adult volunteers who don't have like media releases, for example, where they won't have their photos appear anywhere in a newsletter or on Facebook. And if we have phones free for all, the risk of those people being photographed and being published is quite high as well. So we do need to consider that as well. Adding to the question about electronics, if a scout has a medical need to wear headphones, such as some youth members who are on the autism spectrum, will they be allowed to use their headphones? Yes,
absolutely. Yeah. We review. So we've got a team led by Rosie, who some people may know from Cabaret and other Jamboree experiences, but is heading up our health and wellbeing area within the Queensland Contingent, and we will be reviewing everybody's special needs in terms of whether it's medication or whether it is medical devices or other devices to use. And we will work with families and individuals on all those. So our responsibility is to make sure that everybody's well looked after, but we need to make sure. But if headphones are for noise reduction and those sorts of things, absolutely, we wouldn't deny anyone that. That's for sure.
Perfect. So I've got one more question in the chat, and then there's two in the Q&A section. So I'll move over there shortly. The final question on the chat is, I've just lost it. Give me one moment. Can leaders have phones?
Leaders can have their own phone. Each Jamboree Scout leader, so within the troop lines, will have a phone, and each Jamboree unit will also have a smart device, and that device will be for arranging food, for meals, and also for booking activities as well as a patrol. Because within the Jamboree itself, some patrols may form particularly for a particular activity because they all want to go. So they may not be the standing patrol within the Jamboree troop, but it could be a special patrol, an activity patrol that gets formed for maybe a day, and then so they'll be able to do that. So there'll be a device, and that's how we communicate if there's an emergency from JEC, Jamboree Executive Council Committee, or from the contingent, and we need to get in touch with leaders in a hurry or youth in a hurry to find out where they might be because of some other emergency that we've been alerted to through the contingent. So we need a way to communicate in a hurry. There is an on-site emergency evacuation system and process in place as well. We're working with the SES, the fire brigade, and other emergency services in regards to that. So, look, leaders going to have fun, but again, they are responsible for whatever they bring on site.
All right, wonderful. This one is regarding rovers who are looking at attending as service leaders. So we've got a rover who'll be 18 in December. Can't quite apply for a blue card yet because they're not older than 17 years and 9 months. Is there a way they can apply earlier without having to pay the $100?
For the blue card? That would be a JEC question. So if you go to AJ2025.com, www.aj2025.com.au and do the inquiry, go through there and they'll give you the advice. So it's Queensland government who set the blue card requirements, and any leader, any adult coming on site, so it doesn't matter whether they're leaders from New Zealand, overseas, or other states, are all currently applying for Department of Transport identification, and also then applying for blue cards, because it's the Queensland government sets the rules in regards to blue cards. So that's about as much as I know, I guess, at this stage. I do understand that they can't apply until later on, and it just means that their blue card won't get validated until it actually comes online.
Yeah, that's right. And it is, it is a good point. Everyone coming into this jamboree needs to be checked and have a blue card. So we certainly do take safety and child safety very seriously. So the next question is around tents, sleeping bags and mats. Are they provided? Tents,
yes. Personal equipment such as a sleeping bag and a sleeping mat, they're personal equipment items, and they will be on the prescribed list of what each individual is to bring. So tents,
wonderful.
Yes.
Yep. Awesome. So they just keep coming in tonight, John. Lucky you've blocked this out to 8:30. So the next one is around if we have a youth member who's in an electric wheelchair, will there be enough activities that they can participate in, which will make the expense of the jamboree feasible for the family?
I can't answer that question, and I think I know who that's come from, and I'm more than happy to talk to the author of that question offline. Intention is actually to have a conversation around that. So I don't know, because we've got to think of the logistics of transport to and from activities, and then the activities that are there as well. So at this stage, I can't answer that particular question, but happy to chat offline about that.
All right, perfect. So we've pretty much covered all of the questions that I can see. There
Someone's
is
asked about a visitor needing a blue card. I saw there on the list somewhere.
Yeah.
On visitors' day, no, they won't, because they're not staying overnight. They're just visiting for the day. They'll be registered as well, so we'll know who is who on site, and also when they leave the site as well. So visitors won't need a blue card if they're only there for a day. But if they're there for any longer, it means that they are going to be either part-time or casual workers. Therefore, they would need to apply, and therefore they would need a blue card.
Perfect. I did miss that one. We've got two people super keen on chatting in the chat, so it's bumping a few of the messages. I can't see any more questions in the chat though. Happy to wait 30 to 45 seconds to have any more come through. I guess if we can just
ask those in the chat to just confine the chat to questions, please.
That would be amazing. Yes.
Yeah. So.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you to everyone who's writing thank you messages. We really appreciate that.
Yeah. So did you say you had a couple of Q&As?
I did check those, but it seems the rover question was popped into the chat for me, so they might have realised I wasn't very active in the Q&A section. The other question that was in the Q&A section was around, will adults be given the opportunity to apply after 31 March? But you did cover that a little bit earlier. So yeah,
Yeah, at this stage, the closing date is the 31st of March. If we start saying, because we're trying to identify all of our permanent staff and commit to numbers in terms of attendance of Jamboree. If we left it open, it would mean people could be seeing that as, oh, we haven't got enough people, so we're going to keep it open, or we're not committed to our promise of closing the application system as of the 31st of March. So at this stage, from the Jamboree Executive Committee, as far as I'm aware, the 31st of March is the closing date for applications. Because the other thing is, if they did leave it open, we're trying to tell suppliers that these are the members of Contingent, this is how many I've got from Queensland, and I'm going to be ordering gear based on the applications we've got. So, if we left it open as well, there's no guarantee that some people may miss out on contingent gear as well, because understand we are working to a budget that's fairly tight, and we've kept it very tight for a reason. So we may not have the flexibility to say, oh, let's just order another 500 shirts on the basis that we might get another 500 applications. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, that's it. We do have another question that's popped in just briefly. Will we be required to help pack equipment to be sent to the Jamboree? Now, I'm not quite sure where this person's located. Do you have any answers for that one, John?
Yeah, no problem. No, look, all the Queensland contingent equipment. So this is your tents, or your dining flies, your chairs, the seats, the tables, all the cooking equipment is all stored at Baden-Powell Park. So in early December, maybe late November, we will announce a packing day, and so that packing day will be, we get a forklift delivered, because we pack all the gear into what we call pellicons, and each Jamboree unit will have a pellicon with all of its equipment sitting in it, and that will be loaded onto the truck, transported up to the Jamboree site in December. And then during December, or I think so, late December or very early, or like 26th of December, that equipment will be taken off the torp liner that we've arranged to take us everything up there. That'll be unloaded and delivered to each of the Jamboree sites. So when the scouts arrive, their Pelicon with all their equipment, apart from their personal gear, all their equipment will be on site waiting for them to unpack and to establish there. So put all their tents up. We've got a map that we tell everybody that this is where things should go, because the sites, we've got limited room on each site. So 20 metres by 40 metres is the amount of space that each Jamboree unit has. So we've got a fair bit of gear, and then anyone who knows the current Queensland tents are quite large.
Excellent. Now, this is a nice question. We'll take it as a compliment, John, that we're doing a good job with webinars. Is there going to be another webinar closer to the Jamboree?
Look, at this moment in time, I haven't got any plan, but more than happy to continue the conversation and run additional webinars as more information is available. So yeah, happy to do more. I'll talk with my committee and get the vote of confidence whether we should continue to do this. But the tone, I guess this was all about what's a Jamboree, the what, the where, the when, the why, the who, and the how much. And also just answer questions, which we've been doing coming in all the time. So more than happy to run more if we need to, but we'll have different information.
Wonderful. Now, you did mention briefly around leader jobs and part-time and casual and things like that. There's a question here around non-leader roles, and if you know when it's likely they'll be allocated.
Non-leader roles. Okay, so in the application system, you are able to put in preferences for areas you might want to work. So we can, that'll get picked up through me and through my contingent management team, and then we will pass those names on to the various directors of the Jamboree JEC. So if someone has a particular interest in maybe water activities, or wants to be part of the program team, or want to help with sites and services, or entertainment, or just generally helping out around the site with a whole lot of things, like it could be distribution of food, those sorts of things, or in our warehousing area, that sort of stuff. Yeah, you can nominate those roles, and they're on the application system as well.
Perfect.
Again,
and
chat, guys, can we just can you leave them to just questions? Thank you, not conversation pieces. Thank you.
Thanks, John. So we do have another question around sleeping arrangements. Do our youth members share tents, or do they have individual tents?
No, we just, it's just not possible. It depends on the individual circumstances, how they're accommodated. But in general terms, there will be one tent per patrol, and patrols are, the sleeping arrangements. Whilst we might have mixed patrols moving around during the day, their accommodations will be half a dozen males and half a dozen females. They'll be allocated into their tents within their Jamboree unit. So we don't have the space to allow everyone and to bring their own tent, and we certainly don't have enough tents to accommodate 1,000 young people in Queensland Contingent. So we have Jamboree bell tents, and they are the tents that we will use unless somebody has special circumstances that requires their own accommodation, and we will look at those and that could be for a whole of reasons, but we'll look at that on a case-by-case basis. Oh, you're muted, Nori.
Thank you. And a question from our super keen rover to help us is, do the rovers travel with the scouts to a Jamboree?
Most rovers have their own motor vehicle, but if you can, look, I would be talking as a rover, I would be talking to the Queensland Branch Rover Council. The Queensland Rovers are taking on some specific program roles within the Jamboree. Amanda Brown, who is the incoming Queensland Branch Rover Council chairperson, is coordinating some of the activities that the Rovers will be involved with. My best suggestion would be, if you contact Queensland Branch Rover Council, say, okay, I want to go to the Jamboree. How do we, what do I do from there? So at this stage, if you're applying, I would probably put independent travel at this stage, because the Rovers, you've all got your own vehicles. Rovers like to travel in convoy, if I know Rovers well enough, and but they may very well be getting up there early from the Jamboree, before the Jamboree starts, from probably just after Christmas, to start getting activities organised and prepared, such as Challenge Valley, or could even be well before in December when we take over the site, when they start that process. So yeah, but great to hear Rovers coming on board. Fantastic.
It's a great event for every section, to be honest. Everyone gets something out of a Jamboree. John, it looks like we've answered all of the questions.
All right.
So
well done, team.
Good job. Good questions. Good discussion.
Yep. All right. So thank you very much for attending tonight. I guess it is over to you as the audience tonight. It's up to you to, if you haven't already applied, certainly apply, and go to the Jamboree website, www.aj2025.com.au, or come to the Queensland Contingent website. If you just Google Queensland Contingent AJ2025, you can find us easy enough. But thank you very much for everyone. There's a recording of this. This will be available in a few days on the Queensland Contingent website.
And for anyone who wants to have a look at the webinar that we did do on the 6th of March, it is available to review as well. There's a question that's popped into the chat. Were there questions in this chat that were different to the first webinar? They've been different. Both webinars have had different questions. Similar though, answers are consistent, whether that just the questions are asked in a different way really. But if you do have an hour to pop something on in the background and just listen to the conversation from the last webinar, then you'll have absolutely every bit of information that we've shared over these 2 sessions.
Fantastic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, can I thank Nairi for being in the background and supporting this webinar and filtering the questions, but I also thank everyone for asking your questions and also being part of tonight's webinar. Look, we will run another one or two, and certainly between now and as we get closer to Jamboree, but as things develop and we've got lots of information to tell you, we'll go and do that as well. So thank you very much, and over to you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Hello, how you going? Oh. Hello, how you going? Let me just get out of this. I'll shut it down. No worries. Oh, okay. So, yep. Oh, there's still two people. Who's oh, there's Eli. No, it's Eli and me. Eli's on his own. I think I can force him out. Yep, removed from me. Done. Yep, gone. Gone. There you go. Yeah, it's still recording at the moment. So That's right. As soon as I get rid of that, I think we'll be right. So, all right, leave with me and I'll get rid of this. I'll shut it all down. Thanks. All right, good on you. Thank you. Happy Sunday. All right. You too. See ya. Bye.